Think you've seen everything the insect world has to offer? Prepare to be proven wrong. In today's video, we bring you 15 of the rarest and most breathtaking insects ever discovered on this planet. Living jewels so improbable that the first reaction of anyone who sees them is to say, "There's no way this is real." Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay tuned for more incredible discoveries across our planet. Now let's dive in. The Queen Alexandra's birdwing is the largest butterfly on Earth, and the world had no idea it existed until 1906. When the British collector Albert Stuart Meek spotted the first specimen gliding through the canopy of Papua New Guinea, it was flying too high to reach with a net, so he did the only thing he could think of. He shot it with a shotgun. The very first scientific specimen of the largest butterfly in the world arrived in Europe riddled with pellet holes. Females spread their wings nearly 25 centimeters across, chocolate brown with cream markings, while the smaller males burn with electric blue and green over deep black. This species lives in one narrow stretch of forest in Oro province and absolutely nowhere else. When Mount Lamington erupted in 1951, a huge portion of its habitat was buried in a matter of hours. Today it sits among the most endangered butterflies on the planet, guarded by law and hunted by collectors willing to pay thousands for a single pair of wings. Now imagine a beetle that no longer fits in the palm of your hand. Meet the Titan beetle of the Amazon, a creature that reaches nearly 17 centimeters of body length, and that measurement does not even include the antennae. It is the largest beetle in the world by body size. Its mandibles are strong enough to snap a wooden pencil clean in half, and there are accounts of them slicing human skin without effort. But the strangest detail is what happens after it becomes an adult. It never eats again, not once. It emerges, burns through the energy it stored during its larval years, searches for a mate, and dies within a few weeks. Males appear at night, drawn to bright lights in cities like Manaus, which is where nearly every specimen in the world has been collected. And here is the part that still troubles entomologists. After decades of searching, no one has ever found a Titan beetle larva in the wild. We know the adult. The childhood remains a complete mystery. If there is a master of disguise among insects, it lives in the rainforests of Southeast Asia. The orchid mantis has 4 legs flattened into wide pink and white lobes that mimic petals with disturbing precision. Its body sways slowly like a bloom nudged by wind. For over a century, naturalists assumed the disguise was camouflage, a way to hide from predators while waiting for prey. Then a study revealed something far stranger. Bees and flies actually fly toward the mantis more often than they fly toward the real flowers growing beside it. It does not imitate a flower. It imitates a flower better than a flower does. The nymphs hatch looking nothing like the adult, bright red and black, resembling a foul-tasting assassin bug, and only later do they take on that soft petal coloring. A predator that advertises itself as food and wins. Have you ever seen a butterfly you could read a newspaper through? The glasswing butterfly looks like a rendering error in nature. Its wings are almost entirely transparent, framed by a thin border of reddish-brown, and the tissue between the veins carries none of the pigmented scales that give other butterflies their color. Scientists studying that clear tissue found microscopic bumps on the surface, irregularly spaced and smaller than a wavelength of light, which stop the wing from reflecting glare from almost any angle. The same principle is now being studied for anti-reflective coatings on phone screens and solar panels. The adults feed on flowers containing toxic compounds, storing that poison in their bodies to make themselves inedible. So this butterfly is simultaneously invisible and lethal. It drifts through the cloud forests of Central America like a piece of moving air and migrates hundreds of kilometers on wings you can barely see. Deep beneath the ground in northern Australia lives an insect so rare it was declared extinct twice. The Lord Howe island stick insect, known locally as the tree lobster, is a heavy, glossy black insect roughly the length of a human hand. It once swarmed across Lord Howe Island in the Tasman Sea. Then, in 1918, a supply ship ran aground and rats poured onto the island. Within 2 years, the species was gone. For 8 decades, it existed only as museum specimens. Then climbers scaling Ball's Pyramid, a jagged volcanic spire rising more than 500 meters straight out of the ocean, 20 kilometers away, found droppings under a single scraggly bush. A night expedition returned and found 24 individuals living beneath that one shrub. The entire species had survived on a plant you could photograph in one frame. Every captive tree lobster alive today descends from a single pair, nicknamed Adam and Eve by the researchers who rescued them. Forget every dragonfly you've watched hover over a pond. Meet the helicopter damselfly of the Central American rainforest, a creature with a wingspan approaching 19 centimeters and a body so thin it looks like a floating twig. Its wings do not beat in unison. They rotate in a slow, staggered rhythm that makes the insect appear to hang motionless in the shadows, which is exactly how it earned its name. Its hunting method is unlike almost any other insect. It hovers directly in front of a spider web, plucking the trapped prey out of the silk, sometimes taking the spider itself. To do this, it must read the tension of the web without touching it, then strike and retreat before the owner reacts. Its larvae grow in pools of water collected inside tree holes and bromeliads, tiny aquatic worlds suspended meters above the forest floor. When those trees fall, the entire nursery disappears with them. Some insects hide. This one glows. The railroad worm of South America is not a worm at all, but the wingless female of a beetle, and she carries 2 different colors of light in a single body. Along both flanks run 11 pairs of greenish-yellow lights, and at the head sits a separate lamp that burns deep red. She is the only known land animal capable of producing red bioluminescence. When she moves through the grass at night with all lights lit, she resembles a miniature train crossing a dark field, which is precisely where the name came from. The green lights function as a warning to predators that she tastes foul. The red headlamp appears to be a hunting tool because most nocturnal insects cannot perceive red light at all. She approaches millipedes carrying a lantern her prey cannot see. Very few people have witnessed this in person, and photographs of it remain remarkably scarce. High in the mountain forests of Southeast Asia lives a moth that spends its entire adult life pretending to be a bird's mess. But the real star of the family is the Atlas moth, one of the largest insects on Earth by wing surface area, with a wingspan reaching 27 centimeters. Its wings are a tapestry of rust, cream, and black, with translucent, triangular windows near the center. And then there are the tips. The upper corner of each forewing curves and folds into a shape that resembles the head of a snake, complete with a dark eye marking. When threatened, the moth drops to the ground and slowly flexes its wings, and the two snake heads rear back. Like the Titan beetle, the adult has no functional mouth. It survives about 2 weeks on the fat reserves it built as a caterpillar. It cannot eat, it barely flies, and every hour of its adult life is spent searching for a mate before the energy runs out. If beauty could be measured in refusal to be photographed, this next insect would win outright. The Rosalia longicorn is a European beetle dressed in powder blue and velvet black, with antennae longer than its own body, each segment tipped in a dark tuft. Against the pale bark of an old beech tree, it looks less like an animal and more like something painted there. It depends almost entirely on ancient beech wood, dead standing trunks that have been decaying for years. And that is exactly what modern forestry removes first. As Europe tidied its forests, the beetle vanished from country after country. It is now strictly protected across the continent, and in some regions, the only reliable sightings come from a handful of old growth reserves. What makes it heartbreaking is how avoidable its decline is. This insect does not need wilderness. It needs people to leave the dead trees standing. The Madagascan sunset moth is the reason museums invented a special category for their most prized specimens. Its wings shimmer with bands of gold, green, crimson, and violet, but not a single one of those colors is a pigment. They come from microscopic ribbon-shaped scales that split incoming light and reflect it back at different angles, which means the color changes as the moth turns. When European collectors first encountered specimens in the 1700s, some assumed they had been painted by hand. The caterpillar feeds exclusively on a genus of highly toxic plants, absorbing the poison and carrying it into adulthood. Adults gather in dense groups at riverbanks and migrate across Madagascar in enormous seasonal waves that follow the flowering of their host plants. Victorian jewelers used the wings in brooches and earrings, and the demand was intense enough that thousands were harvested for a single fashion season. Now, for a creature that engineers its own bodyguards, the Picasso bug of sub-Saharan Africa is barely more than a centimeter long, but its back is covered in a pattern of ringed spots and bold curves in green, orange, red, and black, arranged with the deliberate look of abstract art. That colorful shield is not a wing case in the usual sense. It is a hardened extension of the thorax that covers the entire abdomen like a single fitted plate. When threatened, it releases a foul chemical from glands on its body, which is why the family is often called jewel bugs by admirers, and something far less flattering by anyone who handles one. Females of related species will stand guard over their eggs for days, fending off parasitic wasps with nothing but their own body. Beauty and stubbornness packed into a living thumbnail. Hidden in the leaf litter of Central and South American rainforests is an insect that looks like it was assembled from spare parts. The peanut headbug, sometimes called the lanternfly, carries an enormous hollow structure on the front of its head that resembles an unshelled peanut, or from certain angles, the head of a small reptile complete with false teeth and eye markings. The bulge is empty. It weighs almost nothing and serves no internal purpose. When a predator gets too close, the insect throws open its forewings to reveal two enormous eye spots, and if that fails, it releases a skunk-like odor. Early naturalists insisted the head glowed in the dark, a claim that circulated for over a century before being disproven. Local folklore in parts of South America claims its bite is deadly unless the victim performs a specific act within 24 hours. The insect cannot bite at all. It feeds on tree sap through a straw-like mouthpart. Deep in the rivers and streams of North America lives a larva that builds treasure. The caddisfly spends its early life underwater, constructing a protective tube around its own body, gluing together whatever material it can find with silk. It produces itself. Sand grains, tiny stones, fragments of leaf, snail shells. Each species has its own architectural signature, and the structures are strong enough to survive strong current. In the 1980s, a French artist began placing caddisfly larvae in tanks containing gold flakes, opals, turquoise, and tiny pearls. The larvae built their cases exactly as they always had, and the result was jewelry constructed by an insect. But the larvae matter for a reason beyond beauty. They are so sensitive to pollution that biologists use their presence as a direct measurement of water quality. If caddisflies are building in a stream, that water is clean. When they vanish, something upstream has gone wrong. Amid the darkness of caves in New Zealand, a ceiling of blue stars stretches overhead, and every single one of them is hunting. The glowworm of Waitomo is the larva of a fungus gnat, and it hangs from cave ceilings, producing a soft blue-green light from an organ at the end of its body. Beneath each glowing larva dangle dozens of silk threads, sometimes 30 or more, each beaded with sticky droplets like a strand of transparent pearls. Flying insects, disoriented in total darkness, mistake the lights for a night sky and fly upward into the lines. The larva reels in the thread and eats what it caught. Its light burns brightest when it is hungriest. The larval stage lasts up to 9 months, and the adult that finally emerges has no mouth and lives only a few days. An entire life spent making a false sky, ending in a creature that cannot eat what it once caught. And the last one is a creature that survived being erased from its own island. The Fregate Island giant tenebrionid beetle is a shining black insect found on a single granite island in the Seychelles, and for a long stretch of the 20th century, it lived on the very edge of disappearing. Rats introduced by ships devastated it, along with almost everything else that crawled. Conservation teams eventually cleared the rodents from the island entirely, one of the more difficult operations of its kind, and the beetle began to recover. It lives inside rotting logs and beneath bark, feeding on decaying wood and playing a quiet role in returning nutrients to the soil. There is no dazzling color here, no false snake head, no jeweled armor. There is only an insect that exists in one place on Earth, which nearly vanished because of an animal that arrived on a boat, and which is still here because a group of people decided it was worth the trouble. If you believe these natural wonders deserve to be seen by more people, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Many more incredible adventures await, with hundreds of Earth's most fascinating natural mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. See you in the next adventure.